Hello and welcome to IWS Academy. In this module, we will explore trauma within organizational and systemic contexts. Many people think of trauma as something that only affects individuals. However, organizations, leadership decisions, workplace cultures, and institutional systems can also influence experiences of safety, trust, and harm. By the end of this module, you will be able to understand trauma beyond the individual perspective, recognize how organizational systems contribute to harm, understand the relationship between fear, uncertainty, and organizational behavior, and identify leadership responsibilities within trauma-informed practice. Let's begin. Trauma-informed practice is often associated with healthcare or therapeutic environments. However, trauma-informed principles are equally relevant to organizational leadership. Organizations influence safety, predictability, trust, communication, and accountability. When systems become unpredictable, inconsistent, or punitive, individuals may experience increased stress and reduced psychological safety. Trauma-informed leadership therefore focuses on how organizational systems affect human behavior. At IWS Academy, we use a framework known as the Fear Amplification Loop. The Fear Amplification Loop explains how fear can escalate when uncertainty remains unresolved. The model follows this sequence: trigger threat, perception, uncertainty, information seeking, emotional contagion, reinforcement, heightened fear. Repeat. In organizational settings, fear often begins with uncertainty. Examples may include organizational change, safeguarding concerns, unclear communication, inconsistent decisions, workload pressures. When uncertainty increases, people naturally seek information and reassurance. If clarity is not provided, fear may continue to escalate. Over time, organizations can become reactive, defensive, and less psychologically safe. Trauma-informed leadership is not about providing therapy. It is not about diagnosing trauma. It is not about encouraging personal disclosure. Instead, trauma-informed leaders focus on reducing unnecessary uncertainty, increasing transparency, creating predictable systems, applying policies consistently, and responding proportionately to concerns. These actions interrupt fear amplification and strengthen trust. Organizations exercise power through policies, performance management, disciplinary procedures, workload allocation, and decision-making authority. How leaders use this power influences psychological safety. Trauma-informed organizations seek to communicate clearly, explain decisions, reduce unnecessary unpredictability, support appropriate challenge, and maintain accountability. Predictability reduces fear, whilst uncertainty amplifies it. Let's look at the following case. A team experiences repeated workload changes with little explanation. Staff become increasingly anxious and uncertain. Leadership attributes concerns to resilience rather than reviewing communication practices. From our analysis, the issue is systemic. A trauma-informed approach would examine how uncertainty and lack of communication contributed to fear amplification. Fear is not weakness. Fear often reflects uncertainty within systems. Trauma-informed leadership reduces unnecessary fear through clarity, consistency, and accountability. Knowledge check. What is the primary purpose of the fear amplification loop? A. To diagnose trauma. B. To explain how uncertainty can escalate fear. C. To replace safeguarding processes. Or D. To assess resilience. Correct answer. B. To explain how uncertainty can escalate fear. This module has explored trauma in organizational contexts, the fear amplification loop, leadership responsibility, and power, predictability, and trust. The key message is this: trauma-informed leadership begins with understanding how organizational systems influence fear, safety, and behavior. Thank you for learning with IWS Academy.